Good morning and welcome to our Facebook Live this morning. It's Monday the 12th of July. My name's Jenny McCormack. Thank you for joining me today. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator and I'm based in Brackley in Northamptonshire in the UK. If you're joining me live, do say hi, let me know that you're here. And if you have any questions or queries, then just pop them in the comments section. If you're watching on catch up, and that could be here on Facebook, on one of my associated Facebook groups, it could also be on YouTube. If you have any questions, then just add a comment on the relevant section and I'll get back to you. If you've got any comments or anything, then they're always welcome. So I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I'm going to start off this morning with some samples from our recent Let's Get Creative event, which I run with two of my team members, and it's become the focus for this week's coffee and card. So I have 2 sessions in person of coffee and card a week. So let me show you the original samples and then I'll show you the coffee and card sample. And then I've got the class samples from July as well for the in-person and class in a box sessions that will take place this month. So let's have a look. So this was from the Let's Get Creative event, and for this we used I used the papers that went with the Plentiful Plants stamp set. So there's a stamp set, there's a set of dies, and there's these papers here that are all coordinate. They also all work on their own, so you can just use the stamp set or you can just use the papers. As you can see, it's sort of foliage rather than floral, if that makes any sense. So this is the stamp set. There's 15 stamps in it, 7 sentiments, and then we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 images. And it's a distinctive stamp set, so it does all this shading and everything for you. So I'm going to be using this stamp set for the rest of this week with some different ideas. And just to show you, these are the dies that go with it. So the dies, as well as cutting out obviously the stamped images, also have these separate die cuts that you can use. So you've got the hanging basket, you've got some pots, you've got some foliage and another pot cover, and then these are the stamped images which have been die cut. And this is the stamped images as well. I've stamped those out for you. The stamp set is £20 and the bundle with the dies is £45. And I do really like these sentiments. So you've got To a Dear Friend, thank you, and this one is lovely, a little note with the biggest thanks. So that's the stamp set. Let me briefly show you the papers, and these papers are on offer this month, so there's 15% off. So this is actually a 12 by 12 paper stack. I've just got I've just cut this down to 6 inches by 12 inches. So we have this beautiful deep foliage here. We've got the pots and the plants. So these don't necessarily match the stamp set. Hi Kerry, lovely to have you join us this evening for you. This lovely brick wall which you're going to be using today. We have this one here with the foliage. So the colours here are, we've got Garden Green and Just Jade, and we also have Evening Evergreen in here as well. And there's this one with the foliage, and then this one with the pots. So one of the reasons I used it for our Let's Get Creative is that you can cut these components up together. You don't need the stamp set. Obviously the dies cut these out, which is really helpful as well, but they can work on their own. And then the reverse sides of these, again, are all really nice neutrals. So we've got stone wall, we've got wood planks, if you can see that, some foliage, again some sort of stone background, small amount of foliage in it looks like grey granite, and then another wood base. So really useful papers, great for men's cards as well as everyday cards. And this set of papers is actually on offer at the moment. Here in the UK it's £9.14 up until the 2nd of August, as opposed to £10.75. Good morning, Lynn, and hi Carol. So those are the papers, really a really useful set of papers in their own right. Okay, let me show you the cards that we made at Let's Get Creative, and then I'll show you today's coffee and card design. So we had this one here, so I've used the paper as the backing, and I've added the brick wall across here, and I've cut out a pot and some of the foliage and added a sentiment. This one uses the Picture This dies, which we featured last week when I was doing the tortoise stamps. And again, these have just been cut from the papers. The hello comes from the stamp set, and then I've added the little bumblebee trinket in here. This one here uses the paper lattice. You can buy these as a pack of 10, and they're really, really useful. You can use these to sponge through. You can use them obviously as a trellis or a backdrop. There's all sorts of things you can do with these. They're made of like a craft card. They're really quite substantial. So this one, as you can see, uses the dies and the die cuts. This is exactly the same thing, but on another variation, so I just turned it into landscape. This has been die cut, but then coloured over using a blending brush to change the colour of that. These are all cut in cinnamon cider, and then again I've used a little blending brush with a little bit of purple on the top to change the colour of that plant. And then we have another one of those. So really easy set to use. So the one that we're going to be doing today is a mini version of this one. And so this is going to fit a note card. So we'll have a note card and envelope, like so. So these are our white note cards and envelopes. And then I've cut down a piece of this paper, and this measures 3 inches by 4.5. And then I've got a choice of 2 because I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to choose. I've got Evening Evergreen and Just Jade that I'm going to pop behind this layer. So this is going to go onto here, and that will be equivalent to this but on a slightly smaller scale. And then I've cut a little piece of the brick wall, and then I'm going to fussy cut a pot and some foliage. So let's start by popping the brick wall on, and I've cut this slightly wider. I look like I've got a nail varnish on, but it's actually polished pink ink. So I'm just going to pop that on, and I'm going to use dimensionals to put that on. I managed to crick my neck a bit this morning, so I'm finding it easier to look one way and not the other. Okay, so pop those 3 on, and then I'm just going to trim this edge off with my scissors. Okay. So I hope everybody's had a nice weekend. So I'm just going to pop this on here. Like so. And then where I've got this little bit left over, I'm just going to trim this off. And I tend to do this rather than cut things to the same measurement, so that if one's, you know, just slightly smaller than the other, you've got something that will still look nice and tidy. Had I cricked my neck? I had my arms behind my head, and I just turned my head slightly, and I felt it go. It's very annoying. Okay, this is probably going to go onto here. I quite like the darkness of that. Okay, so from our sheets of paper, I've got some assorted pots and some assorted foliage. So I'm just going to fussy cut out this pot. Now this one is by far the easiest one. And what I'm actually going to do is use a blending brush to add a bit of depth to this. Let me just cut this out of here. So I haven't actually counted up how many pots you get on a sheet, but I can assure you, you get a lot. And there is a die that cuts this pot out, but it is a fairly simple one to do. Let me show you the difference. So if you can see, this is the pot as it stands, and this is the pot with the shading on. Okay, and I've also rounded it slightly. I don't know if you can see that difference there. So just to show you that shading, because it really does make a difference in my opinion. It sort of brings it to life. So I've got a blending brush. This is my brown one. And I could use early espresso. I could use cinnamon cider. Anything really. Soft suede would do it. Whoops. So what I'm going to do is just come in from the right hand edge with this early espresso I've got today, like so. If you can see that, so it's just bringing in that. Now there is some shading already in here, and there is some shading if you stamp this one out as well. Turn it round the other way and do the same thing. So basically you're mimicking that shading, but it just brings everything to life. And you can do the same with the foliage. So if you can see now how it's got that just extra amount of shading, hopefully you can see that. So you can do as much or as little of this as you want, and you can do this to any of the pots. And it's amazing what a small difference. It doesn't take long to do. And also you can use this to just do the edges as well. So that's gone from what was quite a flat pot, hopefully, to one with a little bit more interest. So we'll just do that. And actually, thinking about it, I could have done the same with the brick wall. So let's just do that. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Just to give that brick wall some shading and interest. So we popped it up on dimensionals to give it some depth, but using your blending brushes or daubers just adds that little bit of extra interest. Okay, right, so this is going to be my pot that's going to sit on here. Now I need some foliage, so I'm just going to grab some of these. Now you could absolutely stamp your own foliage if you have the stamp set, or cut out foliage. You could have flowers, anything you want. I'm going to cut out these two and sort of layer them onto here. So I'm not going to spend too much time doing this, but again, use your blending brush to make this look more shaded. And the other thing you can do, not so much with this one, but where you've got a lot of what would be white space here, if you use your brush to go over that, it hides any of the white. Or in this case, it has got some soft succulent ink behind it. So I'm not doing fussy cutting. Just getting it close enough. Okay, I'm not worried about the ends at the stalk here, because I'm going to tuck this behind the pot. Okay, let's get these pieces out of the way. And then there's this one here. You definitely need some nice sharp scissors for fussy cutting. As I say, the dies do cut out some of these foliage pieces. There we go. So sorry, this is a bit laborious for you to watch, I know. So I'm just going to come around as quick as I can. I know some people find fussy cutting really therapeutic. I do when I'm in the right frame of mind. I can, you know, if I've got something on television that I'm listening to rather than watching, then I can sit and fussy cut bits and pieces. It's the same as colouring in, isn't it? It's that sort of mindfulness element. Oh, absolutely, Kerry, because I did our Let's Get Creative event just based on these papers alone, without using the stamp set. So I did use the dies, so these use the dies, but the all these are from the papers. You could use alternate sentiment, that's from the papers, as is that obviously, and those use the dies. So I'm going to be exploring the stamp set this week, because I haven't used the stamp set other than the sentiments, but definitely this one is worth it for the papers alone. I would definitely recommend it, and especially while they're on offer. I had quite a few people order the papers at Coffee and Card, because there's so much you can do with them. Okay, so I just showed you the 6x12 sheets, and obviously they're 12x12, and you get two of them. 2 of each of them, I should say. That's a lot of fussy cutting. So these are all from the papers. All of this is just from the papers. So what I'm going to do is build my pot here. I might put this one in front or behind, like so, and that's going to go onto here. So you can do the same trick as I said before. Well, it's not a trick. You can do the same thing to colour the edges of the plants, but also to get rid of some of this white here. So I've got a green blending brush, and if I use, for example, a bit of just jade, and you could use a sponge dauber or something as well. I use on this one here. Oops. Then what you're doing is you're basically taking that white or paler piece of designer paper and hiding it a bit more by using the same colour. And the other thing you could do is exactly the same thing, but with a blends pen. So for example, this is dark soft succulent. Let's find a light soft succulent, or even maybe light evening evergreen. Actually, I'm going to use this one. Start again. So you could use this to go in and shade in some of that so that you it's not as obviously white. So on this one I can just literally go right the way over it and the edges. So there's lots of different things you can do, which means you don't have to be as accurate with your fussy cutting, because you can cover a lot of that up. I know some people would go, you know, really close to those edges, but if you're like me and there's only so much fussy cutting you're prepared to do, and I always think of our lovely Lynn who's here, fussy cutting those tiny flowers that went with the sheep that we had for Easter. No, the bunny rabbit. There's a bunny and a sheep. And Lynn fussy cut the tiniest of flowers. I don't think I shall ever forget that. And a lot of them as well. I think she did over 20 Easter cards, and they all had at least 5 or 6 tiny little flowers. So can you see, just by adding that pen, you can really soften any of these white edges. I could make that dark as well, but it's going to go on that background. So there's a couple of things you can do, and obviously you can also shade the tips of these to give this some layers of interest. Yes, it was a commitment. Okay, so let's find my pot. There it is. So all I'm going to do is just attach these to my pot, so the whole thing will be sat on top of the wall. And I don't know whether I might put this one behind just to make it look fuller. So going to do it like that, I think. So all I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue on the fronts of these. There we go. So a little bit on here, and I am going to just curl my pot as well. Give it a little hint of shape. So let's add that one there. And then this one in there. I'm going to pop this on with a combination of dimensionals and glue. So just having that poking out behind, like that. So this is going to sit on our brick wall. So what I'm going to do is glue it on the brick and then put dimensionals behind. Before I do that, I'm going to add my sentiment onto here. So I'm going to use that lovely one that says, "A little note with the biggest thanks," because I've got plenty of space on this one. Let's find the block. And I could do this in a cinnamon cider, I could do it in garden green, I could do it in evening evergreen. Nearly called it everyday evergreen. I'll do it in evening evergreen as that is here. So let's just try that out. Yep. I'm doing this first so it doesn't get in the way of my plant pot, and it also means I can position my pot accordingly, so I could have this over to the right, for example. So a little note with the biggest thanks. Is that one? There you go. And here's my pot. So I could put it anywhere actually. I'm going to have it to the left, and then I'm going to put something in there. So let's pop this onto our card base. Yes, that was very sensible, Lynn. Right, let's pop some glue on the back of this. I love this stone on the back is as well. You could use that instead of the foliage on the back if you wanted. And there's so many different things you can do with this combination. So as I say, this is a small size. It's for my coffee and card. So they'll get to make 2 cards this afternoon. And then I'm going to add, what I might do is add 1 dimensional at the bottom and 2 dimensionals behind the pot to keep it off the edge. So and the sun has come out, which I'm very glad to see. So you'd have 1 at the base there, and then going to stack this up 1 above the other. Like that. and I'm not sure if I'll have one or two behind here, so let's just put one on there for now. Rather misshapen dimensional, but nobody will see it. Okay, so you can have it right on the top or just a little way on. Yeah, that works perfectly. So I've got one dimensional under here and then two dimensionals here, so it's the same height as this ends up being. Okay, tuck that out of the way and let's pop it onto our card. So this is our standard note card and envelope. Just going to use our wet glue on the back of that. So coated over, but not a thick coat. I'm just going to slide this on, move that glue around, like so. And I'm thinking I'm going to add one of those little bumblebee trinkets into here because I think that would be nice. I need to put my glasses on to find them. These are really lovely. They're called bumblebee trinkets. They're really quite heavy. You can't appreciate that, but they're nice and sturdy. They're sweet little things, and I'm thinking either here or up here. What do you think positioning wise? So top left or bottom right? Let me know what you think. And that is our card done. I am thinking top left, like so, says Kerry. I'm thinking I might stamp the envelope. So let's just do that, because I think that would look nice on there. So there's my pot. Here's my foliage. And I think I'm going to use I thought I had Just Jade here. I do. Just Jade. And then for my pot, you could use cinnamon cider, Cajun craze, any of those would do. None of which are to hand. They're all in my bag ready for coffee and card. So I'll use soft suede. Why not? Okay, let me just bring out a piece of grid paper just to stamp on. So this is my foliage, Just Jade. It's quite bright, isn't it? I think I'd prefer soft succulent actually, but maybe I'll just stamp it off. Let's have a look at the pot. I've hardly got any ink in this soft suede. see. Best laid plans and all that. So this is early espresso. Will do the job. Just bringing it in from the left because the foliage does extend a little bit. So it's definitely too dark. Let me just move some of that ink off. There we go. That's better. Because it's a distinctive stamp, it doesn't need a lot of ink. If you have too much ink on it, it floods the stamp and you don't get the definition. Okay, so let's pop this on here. I know that's going to go off the end slightly. It's fine. There we go. So there's our pot. Colour not quite in keeping, but hey ho. So there we have it. There's our flying bumblebee that I'd forgotten I hadn't stuck down. Oh dear. There it is. Landed on my carpet. So for attaching the bumblebee trinkets, you could use either wet glue or glue dot, whichever you have to hand. Both of them will work equally successfully. Just going to use a glue dot, press the bumblebee onto it. There we go. So there is our finished card as a variation of this one. Okay, so that's what we're doing at Coffee and Card. Well, that's one of the designs for our Coffee and Card today. What I do want to show you just briefly, as promised, are the cards for our class in a box for July. And this will take place both in person and online, so you'll have the option of either. So let me move this to one side. And the products we're using for this is the Quiet Meadow dies, or Meadow dies they're called. And so the die cuts will all be done for you, and it does include the papers, and I've used the hand penned papers. So in no particular order, this one is actually done on watercolour paper, and you can choose to watercolour or use blending brushes to get that design. And then we've got the black die cuts to create that silhouette. And I have used some white embossing powder on there for that little bit of detail. I'm not sure how much of that you can see on the camera. So there's one. And then we have this one here. So also in your pack you will receive die cuts in our lovely shimmer vellum in our 5 in colours. So you'll have assortment of those. And I've chosen this to match up again with the papers, and you'll get the die cuts, and I've done a little bit of stenciling behind that. Then we have this one here, and these die cuts are white card to start with, and using a combination of different ways of colouring. So these are coloured with daubers, and you do get 3 daubers in your pack, just in case you haven't got any to start with. Then we have this one here, which is using the butterflies and silhouette through the piece of stencil. Hi Sue, nice of you to pop in. Good evening to you. I'm just going through our class projects for this month. Then I have this one, which is actually created using the spare ink off the stencil onto watercolour card. I have used a little bit of stamping from the stamp set, but you could use any background you've got. And then finally a cute little box, again with the paper, so those are all included, and there'll be a little goodie bag to go inside of those, probably some sweets or chocolates. So that's this month's class. So you can join it in person, you can join it virtually with the same class pack, or you can just join online. If you have the products yourselves, or if you're not in the UK and you want to join the class, you can do that. So information about all of those will be going out shortly. As soon as I finished here and had my coffee, then I will be sending out the emails. If you're interested in any of those aspects of the class, then just comment and I'll make sure that you get that information. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be at Coffee and Card this afternoon in Toaster. That is fully booked. And we await news this afternoon from the Prime Minister as to any significant changes for next week, which may just mean that I can have more people at Coffee and Card. So it means I won't have to limit the numbers that we have currently. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me. Thanks Sue, Kerry, Lynn, Carol, and anybody else who has joined us who's either said hi or hasn't. Enjoy your evening, Kerry and Sue. I think you're both in Australia. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. So I shall be back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time, for our next live. And that will be using elements from the stamp set, Plentiful Plants. Do some more work with that. So thanks for joining me. I hope you like the card designs. I hope you have a good day. Look after yourselves and your loved ones. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you again soon. Keep crafting. Bye for now.